After completing the final plate from a sizable stack of filthy dishes, she let out a sigh of relief. She mopped her perspiring forehead using the sleeve of her gown. She had been employed at the upscale eatery called the King's Crown for the past 2 months. The work there was ceaseless. Olivia's duties encompassed not only cleaning the kitchen, but also taking out the trash and washing the dishes. Additionally, she had the responsibility of sweeping the restaurant's patio every morning, as the janitor only attended to the main entrance. Despite the multitude of tasks assigned to Olivia, her salary was modest. It barely sustained her 2 children and covered the cost of her rented accommodation. By the time she returned home in the evening, she was too drained to cook or assist her kids with their homework. However, she had no alternative but to muster more strength for the day's demands. This arduous situation arose from her status as a single mother. Growing up in an orphanage, Olivia had always yearned for a large, affectionate family. After graduating, she was fortunate enough to encounter her soulmate, Wyatt, a kind and caring individual. They tied the knot and eventually welcomed twin boys, Noah and Liam, who became the greatest treasures in their household. Despite Wyatt's tireless efforts as a taxi driver, he struggled to provide for his family due to his own parents' alcoholism, which prevented them from offering any support. Despite the hurdles they faced, the young family did their utmost to make ends meet with the income derived from Wyatt's taxi driving. Since Olivia couldn't afford to leave her children and seek employment elsewhere, the financial burden of supporting the family fell solely on Wyatt. He went to great lengths to earn as much as possible, working night shifts and even violating taxi driving regulations by engaging in unauthorized activities. Despite his endeavors, the earnings from driving a taxi were meager. Tragically, one day, Wyatt succumbed to exhaustion and fell asleep at the wheel, resulting in a fatal accident. The loss of her husband dealt Olivia a devastating blow. She was now left to raise her 2 young children, who had just started first grade, without any assistance or support. Overcoming her own timidity and fear of leaving her sons unattended, Olivia slowly began to earn money through low-paying jobs. Initially, she would distribute flyers and free newspapers in mailboxes, going door to door twice a day. She also displayed advertisements on special stands near public transportation stops. Although these jobs provided minimal income, they helped Olivia and her family survive. It has been 3 years since Olivia lost her husband, and she still thought of Wyatt every day, deeply missing him. However, her 2 wonderful sons served as a source of strength, encouraging her to persevere and not give up. Landing a job at the restaurant was a stroke of luck for Olivia. Although the pay remained low, it was much better than what she used to earn from posting advertisements. At that time, this was of greater importance to her. She had grown accustomed to the various challenges of making ends meet, so working as a dishwasher didn't seem so terrible. The only thing that constantly troubled Olivia was how her sons, Noah and Liam, were treated at school. They endured frequent bullying and ridicule due to their family's poverty and modest possessions. Olivia made sure her children dressed as plainly as possible, wearing practical trousers, sweaters, and inexpensive cotton shirts. If something got torn, she would try to mend it rather than buying new clothes. However, Olivia couldn't control time, and as her children naturally grew, they needed new clothes and shoes that fit them. Regrettably, Olivia herself couldn't afford even the simplest new blouse, having to make do with worn-out clothes that were on the verge of falling apart. Noah and Liam were subjected to teasing from their wealthier classmates. These children failed to grasp that Olivia's family was compelled to live modestly against their wishes. "Look at them, they can't even afford a donut," their classmates would mock the brothers in the school cafeteria. "Get out of here, you losers. How do we know, maybe you're stealing from others while you're in line. You won't get anything anyway, so get lost." Hearing such accusations against her children was deeply painful for Olivia, but the school administration remained indifferent. "We don't know why the other kids are behaving like that. Maybe your children did something to provoke them," they dismissively remarked. Olivia often yearned to take her twin sons and enroll them in a distant school where they wouldn't be tormented due to their challenging circumstances. However, she knew she lacked the means to do so presently. Although the boys' school was conveniently located near their home, Olivia clung to the hope that one day they would break free from the daily struggles they faced. In the meantime, she did her utmost to comfort and support them. One day, while cleaning the restaurant, Olivia noticed several plates of leftover food tucked away in a corner of the kitchen near the garbage can. Upon closer inspection, she realized these were not mere scraps of cold food. Many of the dishes remained untouched, customers had paid for them but left them uneaten for some unknown reason. Now, these plates were on the verge of being discarded. Among the remnants were not solely chilled appetizers and cheese platters, but also side dishes like pasta, soup, and even broccoli mashed potatoes. As Olivia gazed upon this edible treasure, her stomach rumbled loudly. She hadn't eaten since the previous night and had given the last bit of porridge to her children for dinner. With an undeniable appetite, she looked at the plates of food. After a moment of contemplation, she swiftly retrieved a couple of empty plastic containers from the fridge and began transferring the leftover food into them. "Today, my children will not go hungry or have to consume watery porridge again," she thought with an uncontainable eagerness. "Today, they will eat until they're fully satisfied." Olivia was overcome with excitement. That evening, the Ritchie twins had the pleasure of tasting cheese and real meat sausages. They devoured the food containers their mother had brought for them with astonishing speed. On the other hand, Olivia wept tears of happiness as she witnessed the healthy color gradually returning to her children's pale and thin faces. Overwhelmed with emotions, she could only manage to swallow a few spoonfuls of vegetable puree. From that day forward, Olivia discreetly took away the dishes that the restaurant guests had barely touched, bringing them home to feed her sons. She only took what the guests had explicitly rejected and never touched anything intended for future service. Olivia knew that customers who refused the food they had paid for wouldn't ask for it again. The main clientele of the King's Crown were typically affluent individuals for whom the cost of an uneaten dish was inconsequential. They could easily spend hundreds of dollars in one evening at the restaurant without considering it a significant expense. One day, Olivia took in a stray dog she had found in a garbage yard near her house. Cooper was a remarkably handsome and obedient canine, with shaggy ears constantly twitching in different directions as if he were trying to catch every sound around him. His black eyes sparkled with defiance whenever he saw Olivia or her twins. Initially, Olivia simply fed the poor animal on the streets, but her children eventually convinced her to bring him home, especially since she had grown fond of him. Chef Fred and the waitstaff at the restaurant would mock Olivia, unaware that she had children, assuming she was taking the food home for her dog. "God, she's as thin as a skeleton herself," Fred would occasionally joke. It would be better if Olivia herself ate something instead of giving everything to her dog. For several months, everything went smoothly until the King's Crown changed ownership. A man named Stephen Brooks became the new proprietor of the restaurant. Young and ambitious, he possessed an obsessive desire to control everything and everyone. As a businessman, he feared theft by his own employees, prompting him to move from the bustling city to the province in an attempt to prevent such incidents before they occurred. Mr. Brooks installed several surveillance cameras throughout the establishment and personally monitored the staff whenever he had the chance. One evening, while working late, he observed on the monitor how Olivia was taking unfinished food left by customers, placing them in containers, and leaving with them. Outraged by what he perceived as audacity, Steve immediately summoned the chef and pointed to the video footage, launching into a series of questions. "What the hell is this, Fred?" the irate owner demanded. "I granted you the raise you requested, and this is how you repay me? Allowing a dishwasher in a ragged robe to swindle me? Why is this woman so easily taking food out of the kitchen? Did you let her?" The chef turned pale, not expecting the owner to be so furious over some leftover food. "Well, Mr. Brooks," Fred began hesitantly, "I mean, we were already paid for that food. These remnants were just going to be discarded in the morning. At least now she'll be able to feed her dog." Then Fred had a moment of realization and quickly added, "You know what? I'm not entirely sure. Olivia's almost always the last one to leave, so we should check on her." The chef fell into silence, and Mr. Brooks released Fred, starting to contemplate. The only way to put a stop to the increasing pilferage would be for him to personally confront the dishwasher and shame her. If necessary, he would even threaten her with termination. Determined to get to the bottom of things, the businessman obtained Olivia's home address, got into his car, and drove straight to her house. During the journey, he spent a considerable amount of time rehearsing the speech in which he would berate the woman for her petty theft. He envisioned himself saying, "What were you doing there, young lady? How can you so casually take and steal food from the restaurant kitchen? Sure, maybe they are leftovers for which the customers have already paid the full amount, but how can you feed raw food to a dog? I understand that some waste is unavoidable, but these ingredients are costly. The economy is in crisis right now, and food prices are exorbitant. What you're doing is tantamount to stealing money from the company." Mr. Brooks approached the house, unaware that he had driven to the outskirts of the city, into one of the poorest and most dilapidated neighborhoods. As he climbed the worn-out stairs, he hesitantly rang the doorbell. Within seconds, Olivia herself answered the door, swiftly quieting her barking dog and displaying surprise at her unexpected late-night visitor. Good afternoon," Mr. Brooks began briskly. "Are you Olivia Ritchie, if I'm not mistaken?" Olivia continued to gaze at him, her expression filled with confusion. Finally, the bewildered woman replied, "Yes, it's me. But who are you? Forgive me for asking." Olivia had not yet met the new owner of the restaurant and was unfamiliar with his appearance. "Oh, I apologize for coming at this hour. I'm the new owner of the King's Crown. I have a very serious matter to discuss with you. May I come in?" The dog continued to bark, and Olivia struggled to calm the animal before allowing the businessman inside. Once he stepped inside, Mr. Brooks immediately noticed the challenging living conditions the family endured. The hallway had sagging wallpaper, and instead of a chandelier, there was an old electric floor lamp. Unintentionally, Mr. Brooks glanced beyond Olivia and caught sight of a small, square kitchen. To his astonishment, two twin boys sat happily eating the very leftovers from the restaurant. Mr. Brooks was taken aback. "You have children?" Yes, as you can see," Olivia responded calmly. Mr. Brooks paled. "Oh my God. I'm really sorry. I came here to reprimand you. I thought you were taking fruit from the kitchen and feeding it to your dog. I had no idea you had children." "Oh, yeah. Those were for my children," Olivia said with a bitter smile. "Our guests hardly touched these dishes, and at the end of the shift, either Fred or I would have to dispose of them. Please understand, I would never have done this if the dishes were intended for the customers. But after all, the customers themselves refused them, even after paying for them. In terms of money, the restaurant doesn't suffer any losses." Mr. Brooks felt extremely embarrassed. "Oh no, don't worry. It's all good, it's all good. You know what? Let me just go, and I'll see you tomorrow, okay? And I'm really sorry again for bothering you this late." Yeah, take care, guys," he apologized humbly and quietly left Olivia's apartment. The following day, Mr. Brooks made a decision. He did something he had never done before. Rising early, he was in a great mood, excited about work since the restaurant was something he genuinely enjoyed. He dressed in his finest attire, as was his custom when in a good mood. Upon arriving at the restaurant, he immediately made his way to the kitchen. Everyone was diligently carrying out their tasks. Fred was swiftly giving instructions to other workers for salad and sauce preparations. Miranda, one of the oldest waitresses, greeted Mr. Brooks with a warm smile. "Good morning, Mr. Brooks. Would you like your usual hot chocolate?" she asked. "No, I'm good today. Actually, I'll have wine, but later." "You look exceptional today, Miranda," he replied. "Thanks. I feel special," Miranda said. Mr. Brooks typically conducted a morning briefing with all the staff, but today he went straight to the kitchen. As Olivia attended to another stack of dishes, Mr. Brooks walked in and asked her to come to his office. Olivia's heart sank as she was uncertain about what was about to unfold. She made eye contact with Miranda, who returned a reassuring smile. "Don't worry, I don't think he's going to terminate your employment," Miranda whispered. "I'll tell you more, he seems different today." With a hesitant knock, Olivia entered Stephen's office and asked for permission to come in. There was a loud noise as he hastily got up from his desk and rushed to the door. "Hi, Olivia. Please come in and take a seat. How are you today?" Stephen greeted her. "Can't complain. Got a stack of dishes I need to take care of," Olivia replied. "Of course. Hey, listen, I apologize once again for last night," Stephen said. "Don't worry, it's all right. Thank you for allowing me to take the leftovers. It's been really helpful. But, oh man, I think you shouldn't have to rely on the leftovers anymore, Olivia. In fact, I'll take care of the meals for your kids, all right?" "Oh, Mr. Brooks, you don't have to. Please, call me Stephen," he insisted, handing her an envelope filled with cash. "Is this my salary?" "I think it's too much, and it's only the beginning of the month," Olivia said, feeling embarrassed. "No, that's your bonus for handling so many dishes," Stephen clarified. Olivia knew she truly needed the money, but she felt a mix of gratitude and embarrassment at that moment. She asked Stephen if there was more work she could do at the restaurant to repay him. Stephen responded that there was something she could do for him. "Do you think you and the twins could accompany me on a trip?" "It's a long story, but in short, I came out of Stephen's office with a beaming smile," Olivia said. Miranda noticed her radiant expression and smiled warmly. From then on, Stephen continued to help Olivia and her children. Over time, feelings developed between the dishwasher and the restaurant owner. Although Olivia knew that Stephen could never replace her children's father, she considered him a kind and loving person for her and her kids. Meanwhile, Stephen was still working to minimize the financial losses in his restaurant. The true culprit behind the theft of valuable goods was finally exposed. It was the chef, Fred. It turned out that before joining the King's Crown, Fred had encountered problems with local gangsters. He had worked as a chef for a gang leader and had gotten involved in drug dealing as a side hustle. Unable to repay his debt, the gangsters forced him to find and cook with stolen products at the gang leader's house. Consequently, Fred started stealing high-end items from the restaurant. Fred was caught on camera taking expensive fish from the fridge. After everything came to light, Fred expected to be immediately fired. However, Stephen called Fred into his office for a conversation. "Why didn't you tell me, Steve?" Fred began. "I'm sorry, Steve. I was desperate. These guys were threatening to harm my family. Why didn't you go to the police, man? These are serious matters. You can't try to fix things by stealing," Stephen expressed his disappointment. "Fred, you were one of the best chefs in town. Before I became successful in the city, we used to live here. I started my journey with a food cart. You were the first employee I hired. You loved your job and always went the extra mile to help me. I want to trust you, alright? Yeah, Steve, please understand. I'm not swimming in cash, but I want to give you another chance. You've been incredibly supportive and helped me tremendously when I was just starting out. I'll always remember that. But let's have honesty between us, okay? Sure, Steve. Thank you so much, Fred responded sincerely. How much is your debt? Steve inquired. What? It's around 20 grand, man, Fred admitted. Alright, consider it taken care of. I'll talk to them, Steve assured him. Steve's decision not to fire Fred stemmed not only from the fact that he had discovered Fred's true circumstances, but also because it allowed him to learn more about Olivia and her sons. As a result, he began seriously considering proposing to Olivia and adopting Noah and Liam. He had already asked Olivia to move in with him and the boys, and now they all lived together in a spacious, large apartment. Stephen's heart had completely healed since his divorce from his unfaithful wife, who had cheated on him with his business partner 6 months ago. After some time, the businessman was ready for a genuine, committed relationship. He chose the pure and honest love of Olivia, deciding not to rush into anything. What are your thoughts on the story and characters? How would you handle things differently? Feel free to share your thoughts, as they may offer valuable insights for those going through challenging times. If you enjoyed the story, please consider liking and subscribing for more stories. Don't forget to click the notification bell button. Thank you, and we'll be back with more soon.